Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Ironwoman. We only have special guests, and today we go to Sydney, Australia. Payne, very hot topic in my opinion. She's the CEO and founder of the Pink Elephant Support, a charity for those impacted by early pregnancy loss or miscarriage. Please introduce yourself. We want to hear from you, but we also want to learn. And what can we contribute?
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for having us on. Thanks for shining a spotlight on the topic of early pregnancy loss, miscarriage, because for too long it hasn't been spoken about, which has led us globally to have a lack of awareness, a lack of empathy for the true experience for many mothers and partners, and also then a lack of clear policies in place to support people at a time of need.
How did it all start?
I never thought I'd end up here. I have a different background, but then I had my own personal lived experience of pregnancy loss, recurrent pregnancy loss. We really struggled to have our second child, and we had 2 miscarriages back to back. And it was after my second miscarriage that I was like, there's a huge gap here. I'm asking for support. I'm saying I'm not coping. I don't know how to get through this. And I'm saying it to health professionals. I'm saying it to friends and colleagues. Yet I was being met with awkward silences, unsure how to respond, looked at like I was slightly crazy. There was no one really that was offering to help me. And I eventually found another woman. Her name is Gabby, and she'd had her own journey of IVF and miscarriages. She was the first person who truly understood what I was going through. There was an enormous point of gratitude from me that I felt like I could connect, be honest, and not feel like I had to put this brave face on and pretend how I was feeling so that I didn't impact other people's feelings. I didn't want to be the negative person, and I didn't have to be that with her. And it was that point, there was this kind of element of, okay, this is what's needed, peer support, which I didn't know it was called that back then, but women need a connection with another woman. Partners need connections with other partners. Those with lived experience can hold a torchlight if you want. They can hold hope for you, but they can also validate the darkness of your emotions and not try and fix you. And that only comes from lived experience. That was hugely instrumental in building Pink Elephants 8 years ago. It was around, well, how do we provide these connections? How do we ensure that no one has to go through the experience of miscarriage, early pregnancy loss alone? So they don't feel isolated, their grief isn't met with disenfranchisement, that they get the support, empathy, and connection they deserve. We started small, and over time it's grown quite significantly.
Thank you for all the great work. And this is such a topic that people don't talk about. And I looked at your video and it says, oh, if you lose a baby, it was early on. Well, the total wrong answer. You don't want to hear that. You want empathy and support from others.
100%. So when we say to someone, at least it happened early, or at least you can get pregnant, what that does is it minimizes their grief, it invalidates their experience, and it isolates them from seeking support. So it's actually really dangerous. And what you can do is exacerbate someone's trauma. And that can lead to poor mental health outcomes like anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thought. We know this from research. This is backed up by evidence. Professor Tom Bourne, Tommy's in the UK are leading the way. They published papers around miscarriage in the Lancet a few years ago now. They call for change in pregnancy loss reform because they know that miscarriage matters and that it time's up. We can no longer say to people, at least it happened early, or it's nature's way, because what we're doing is this pervasive level of acceptance that it's okay. And it isn't okay, because to the person who has just lost their baby, they have literally just lost their world. And if I ask you to think of it as the only death that exist within inside us. So for days, weeks, or months, depending on the outcome or the experience of miscarriage, it's not like in the movies often where it's fast. Sometimes it can be really protracted and drawn out. You are literally a coffin for your baby. It is death that passes through us. And that deserves to be met with so much softness, so much love and empathy and understanding. It does not deserve to be met with, at least it happened early, at least you can get pregnant again. Again, I can't say that. I can't iterate it enough. Remove at least from any of your sentences to do with meeting a friend or a loved one who's gone through that experience.
What is the right way to approach it? So if I meet somebody, it seems like you also provide training for us to ask the right question to support a woman who has lost a baby.
Yeah, 100%. So what we did with Pink Elephants is we looked at, okay, instead of telling people what not to do, because sometimes that's not always received in the right way, let's tell people what they can say, what's helpful. And this is all unpacked by focus groups that Pink Elephants holds. And like we constantly check in with our community and make sure, because it changes over time as well. But it can be as simple as, I'm sorry for your loss. It can be as simple as, I'm here for you. What can I do for you? It can be sending a bunch of flowers like you would for any other type of loss. It can be looking after older children if they have older children already, giving them space to grieve without putting a brave face on. It can be the practical things that make a difference. It can be sending a text saying, I'm thinking of you. And not expecting a response, because they might not be in the headspace to give responses and you might need to give them time. It can be continually checking in with them 6 weeks after a loss and not expecting them to be okay 1 week after a loss, which is what society does. We almost base the worthiness of grief on the gestation of the loss. So if a woman's lost a baby at 6 weeks, oh, she'll be fine in a couple of weeks. If a woman's lost a baby at 12 weeks, we might say, okay, well, we'll give her a bit longer. And actually, that's not. We actually have research again that underpins the fact that it's not about the gestation of loss. It's the love that a mother carries for her baby. And that can't be measured in weeks that she's carried that baby for. You do not know how long that gestation in mind has happened for. Like, how long were they trying for that baby for? What thoughts did they have about what school that child was going to go to? How old they will be when this event happened? Whether it would be a boy or a girl? Had they considered names? All of the places that they'd gone from, all of a sudden that they've lost that. And it's a profound grief. And like I said earlier, it's a reversal of grief, reversal of life order. We don't expect babies to die. It's uncomfortable, so we don't talk about it. But 1 in 4 pregnancies end in loss. That's a huge number. 1 in 4. So 25%. And no one knows the exact number because no one's capturing the data globally at all. So it's an estimate. But it's estimated that 1 in 4 pregnancies will end in loss. So you will know someone who has lost a baby or is going through this.
We need to talk about that. 1 in 4 pregnancy results in a loss. That's huge.
It's estimated 23 million a year miscarriages happen globally. And yet we are still one of a handful of support organizations globally that dedicate themselves just to miscarriage or early pregnancy loss. Now, definition for miscarriage varies in countries. So in Australia, it's prior to 20 weeks. In the US, it's 24 weeks. And in England, it's 24 weeks as well. Now, we think those numbers can be quite arbitrary and they can actually be quite damaging, particularly to women who are on the cusp. And we know that a lot of women that may have a later term miscarriage, say post 12, 14 weeks, feel more aligned with the fact that they've given birth to a baby that's fully formed like a baby, and they might more align to language around stillbirth. We need to be mindful that it's a woman's choice as to how she reflects the loss of her baby. And we need to validate that experience in how she chooses and be led by her. We know there are a huge number of pregnancy losses each year. We also need to factor in things like the fact that society is changing, and now that women can test much earlier on, literally 10 days after conception or implantation, we can know that we're pregnant. Years ago, that wouldn't happen. Years ago, women would have to miss a period to know that they were pregnant, and they might be more like 6 or 8 weeks pregnant before they even discovered that they were pregnant. Whereas, so I feel like there's an attachment and a bond building much earlier. Again, which is changing the experience of miscarriage as well, that needs to be recognised. Similarly, those that struggle to conceive and then they are pregnant until proven otherwise, they have an embryo transfer. And then that embryo transfer is their baby. They see that transfer happen on a screen in front of their very eyes, and that's their beautiful little M baby. And then that embryo transfer does not take, and that implantation doesn't work, and they lose that embryo. That's a loss too that deserves to be validated, because they have hopes, dreams attached to the future of that embryo and becoming their baby in their arms. And I guess that's what people forget about society, that we as mothers have an image in our head, of the baby in our arms in 6 to 9 months' time. And that's a huge grief to bear, that you don't then have that baby. Another thing about the protracted length of grief is that there's due dates that come around and everyone else has forgotten that you lost your baby. And therefore that due date means nothing, and it can be marked by no one else. Yet it's a completely profound date for you that you will always remember. and they'll have significance for years to come. And it needs to be more validated as well.
What successes, now this sounds awful, but what successes have you seen when women come to those support groups, or if you do it online? What research do you have, or what is your experience on that?
I can talk about that probably both qualitatively and quant, but qualitatively, the support testimonials that we received back from women, that they feel like they were in a place of darkness and no one was meeting them with what they needed. And then they found pink elephants and they found the support that they felt they deserved. Women that didn't realize they needed support until they stumbled across us and then realized that they were struggling, and the difference that it made for them is the reason I get up and do this every day. Is I know we're making a genuine impact. And scale, because we're a digital organization, we reach thousands. So in October last year was our awareness month. It's Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. We had 17,000 individuals come to our website and access our information for longer than 3 minutes. That's not just like hit on your website, accidentally stumbled it by a search, click through by mistake. People staying on for longer than 3.5 minutes. Huge volume of traffic that were accessing the support that they needed. So we know that. We also know from some of the programs that we run, we obviously, our program leads capture reports, and each month we can see the genuine impact that those are having on the women that have that connection. And it's just so heartwarming to know that you're making a difference. But tragically, on the other side, we are not at the scale we need to be. And we, for example, every time we'll run a PEBS program, which is our bereavement support group online therapy program, we'll have, say, 90 expressions of interests, and we can only put 12 women in that program. So that means that we're turning around and saying sorry to about 60 to 70 and saying, we don't have a space for you, because we genuinely just don't have the funds that are needed to underpin that program. And that's an ask that we have in with the Australian government at the moment to help scale. And that's just one of our programs. Similarly, then, in terms of over the years, quantitatively, we're probably now over 1,000 people that we've supported, because we've got tens of thousands coming through the website, phone peer support, we've got live chat, we've got online communities where people connect with each other, and there's over 15,000 each month in those groups. Again, a differentiator for Pink Elephants was seeing that, yes, we need to provide peer support connections, but it needed to be done in a new and a modern way, and it needed to be provided online, because there's two things to it. There's the accessibility, so that I can open up my laptop, I can open up my phone, and I can get the support there and then when I need it. Also an element of anonymity, which we know over 50% of our posts on our online communities are anonymous. That's both beautiful and heartbreaking. It's beautiful because they're accessing the support that they need, but it's heartbreaking because it says so much to the stigma that's still attached to this, that those women don't want to attach their name or their identity in case somebody is in that group that they know, that knows that they're trying to conceive again after their miscarriage, or knows that they've had a miscarriage in the first place. There is still so much shame and stigma attached to it.
Then the business implications, it seems like people only say after 3 months, I'm pregnant and da, da, da. But how do you deal with that?
Yeah, hugely. So we identified a gap. I think it was 2018 now. We're Australian based, as you know. We could see in our communities, lots of women were talking about returning to work the same day as a miscarriage, the day after. They were still bleeding and they didn't know whether to disclose to their boss that they'd been pregnant but weren't pregnant, because to your point of like only disclosed after this ridiculous 12-week rule that's so out of date now. But there was this element that was playing into it. There was almost the fear of everyone at work, their colleagues knowing they're trying to conceive, and then would they be overlooked for promotions? It's a really complex issue. Also wanting to be met with that tender loving care and empathy when they're returning to work after such a traumatic experience. We developed a workplace program, but alongside developing that program, that we work with large organizations and smaller organizations as well to provide evidence and empathy on the topic and provide that in, if you like, an education format. What we also did was lobby federal legislation change in Australia. Involved leave for loss. It's probably one of my proudest moments with Pink Elephants. It took 3 years of building an incredible case for support, and then also lobbying both parties. Similar to the States, we have both sides and additional parties as well in Parliament, and then seeking an amendment to the Fair Work Act of Australia to ensure that any parent who loses a baby to early pregnancy loss or miscarriage is entitled to paid bereavement leave. And that's not just for the mother, it's for the partner as well. Now, it is only 2 days, but that is in line with any other type of loss. So that might be a grandfather, you would be entitled to a partner, you're only entitled to 2 days. What you find is workplaces that add extra policies themselves. So we work with, say, QBE Insurance, and they now offer 12 weeks paid leave for a pregnancy loss. Huge. And that difference it makes, because that leave can be broken up and used for things like those trigger dates that I talked about, due date. It can be used for pregnancy after loss. If you fall pregnant again and you've got to go for a scan and you don't want everyone to know, you can take extra leave then, because that's emotionally as well. We changed federal legislation, which was incredibly proud, so everyone has access to it. And then on top of that, we now work with organisations and we'll tailor policy for them, because each business has different needs, different types of employees. We'll advocate for the need of those who go through pregnancy loss with our evidence that we've collected over the years. And then we meet them and we discuss their policy provisions. And we've even worked with some of the large banks over here to provide IVF leave. They now provide 5 days paid IVF leave procedures. It's about continuing to push the envelope, not just accepting that leave for loss was enough. We know that more is needed, but it's about trying to do that in a way that's strategic and sustainable for pink elephants. And also that program delivers revenue.
And how big is your organization?
It's changed a lot. So we've got 5 part-time staff now, and hope to grow again. We should reach double that by the end of this year. We have numerous, we've kind of got a diversified revenue portfolio is the posh way of saying it, but basically many ways to bring in funds to deliver the support is what that ultimately is. And that's what matters the most. I do a lot of work in that space. We have sponsorships with brands that have synergies in this space who want to provide support to their patients, for example. So fertility clinics often want to partner with us. And then we'll also have, in addition to that, we'll have the workplace program. That's a fee for service. We charge consulting fee and an education fee to go into organizations and kind of give our evidence and also run things like panel discussions. And then we have hugely over 50% of our revenue comes in from donations. And that's from people that we've supported, because they know the difference that we truly make. And they're the donations that probably in so many ways mean the most because of that reason, that they are choosing to say, yeah, this really hurt me. They might do something like they'll finally be pregnant. Instead of having a baby shower where they ask for gifts, they'll ask for a donation to Pink Elephant. Incredible partners run 3 marathons like back to back for us, or a marathon for each of their babies that they've lost. And like, it's incredible the lengths that people will go to fundraise for us. And I couldn't be more grateful, because that really does then go directly back into support to make sure that we can keep the doors open and give people the support they deserve.
You're amazing.
There are many of us working in this space. Do you know what it is? It's day by day showing up, consistently working towards a shared goal. We are all about ensuring no one walks a journey of pregnancy loss alone. And we can't do that alone. One person can't make that happen. It has to be a collective of individuals with different strengths that all support each other in the ways that they can. I have a co-lead, Amanda, who's the general manager of Pink Elephants. I'm way more out there with ideas. I'm verbal. I can just kind of join dots and spot the opportunities and make things happen. Amanda will actually write all of this down and put it into like really understandable, accessible spreadsheets and forms and sheets and things like that people go, oh, wow, now it makes sense. You've got individuals like Jen who run our workplace program, and she's just an absolute gun, kind of being able to communicate the needs of our community really empathetically, but also then delivering strategically for large corporations that are not always the easiest to work with. She's incredible that way. We feel like work matters, so you get up every day and you want to do it. You want to make a difference.
150,000 that you have supported. That's really amazing. And what do you do when you don't work? It seems like you're a busy person, a happy person, and you make others happy.
I'm learning to get better at that. I'm really learning. That's been a hard exercise. The last 8 years for me have been personally going through this journey, so it's been cathartic, but I've now completed my family. I am very lucky that I have 3 children I get to parent every day. I'm incredibly busy with them outside of Pink Elephants. One's still a toddler. She's about to turn 2, and the rest are in primary school. I've ended up being quite public in this role, but I'm actually quite private, quite like my privacy there. I used to have a lot more time for things like yoga and reading.
And what is your wish for Pink Elephant? How can we support you?
It really is that no one goes through this and feels that heartbreak and devastation and feels like nobody gets it and feels like nobody understands. How you can support us is being that support person for someone who goes through loss, because you can make a difference personally to someone who's going through.
Thank you so much to give us a glimpse into your organization. And certainly we have everything in the show notes and people can learn. And if they have more questions, I'm sure you're there for them.
I'm really grateful for the opportunity. But yeah, anyone who's looking to find out more, head to pinkelephants.org.au and reach out if we can support you in any way.
What are you taking away from this conversation? 23 million miscarriages per year, 1 in 4 women. Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday. Come and join us to learn with others and grow with others. And also get the book, Global Business Coaching with Sports Parallels. We thank you for your support and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.